Hi, welcome. Good morning. My name is Strangleborn. Today, we are wrapping up our February, the end of February. Yes, I realize it's already March. It's been a wild month. So we're going to do a tier list. We're going to build this tier list and add to it at the end of each month. And at the very end of the year, we're going to compare all of these books. I'm just going to give a brief chit chat about some of these books as I rank them, and this is subject to change. As of right now, I have started Jade City from Fonda Lee. It's good. I was struggling at first with it, but starting to kind of take hold of it, and it's interesting, man. I like it. So let's get on with it, man. So let's start. Let's start with Empire of the Vampire and just get it out of the way. I did not finish Empire of the Vampire. I didn't like it. I'm not going to go on a huge tear. It started off really strong, and then I just got tired of Gabriel de Leon. Got really tired of it. After 500 pages, I couldn't stand it anymore. Cool. All right, sweet. So next, we have Guards. Now, I did not finish Guards because I kept getting hung up on the translation from like UK English to United States English, I can understand it better audibly, but for whatever reason, the translation to paper, like reading UK-based humor, can't keep up with it. I don't understand. Like the same thing happened with Douglas Adams, but I chugged through that, but it took me a while. So I am coming back to it, but I liked it a hell of a lot better than Empire of the Vampire. I got about, I don't know, let's honestly say about a third through the book, and I was like, I'm going to listen to the audiobook, and hopefully that will get me accustomed to the writing, and I won't have to do that after. Hopefully that's the game plan. Gods of the Weirdwood, that got a perfect 5-star. I loved the story of Kahan and Ben and Udini, and the setup of the first book there was so much that happened in that first book. But this is one of those steak and potatoes type of book instead of just like junk food or going McDonald's getting a burger. This is like a good hearty meal. You're gonna get adventure, you're gonna get action. Yeah, it takes a little getting used to, and RJ does not hold your hand with any of this stuff, but it's a wonderful book, and I highly recommend it for people who don't mind a little bit slower of a read. It's worth it. Dungeon Crawler Carl, I read both Dungeon Crawler Carls, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put this up here, probably here. The first Dungeon Crawler Carl was ripping fast. The second one was the same, but in a different way. The first one, you fly through the first couple levels of this dungeon. If you've not heard of Dungeon Crawler Carl is about a guy and his cat. The world, all of the structures of planet Earth have been squashed flat, and anybody who was outside at the moment of that happening were given an option to delve down into a dungeon that is part of an intergalactic game show. All of that sounds crazy and ridiculous, and it is to a degree, but it's fun, man, and it's hilarious. I'll tell you what, if you would just read the first book, you'll know within the first maybe 30 to 40 minutes of reading this book whether or not you like it. But it's great. And then the second one is equally as good, but it slows down the speed in which you go through the dungeon, but it's still really fast. It takes place on the 3rd floor, which, you find out in the first book that the 3rd floor is kind of a big deal to get to. Book 1 is more like introductory. Hey, we're going to go through, we're going to have some boss fights. We're going to learn about the skills and stuff. And then book 2 is like, okay, we've got a quest to do. And so I'm excited. My wife has already read the 3rd one, and I have to finish all my books before I can get to the 3rd one. And so I'm a little jealous that she got to go through it. I love Dungeon Crawler Carl, and a lot of people do too. So highly recommend it. You should check it out. The Troop from Nick Cutter. Now we'll put The Troop here. I did not review this book because I didn't have my equipment. And I'm not going to review it now. I liked Nick Cutter's The Troop. It was not as scary as I'd hoped, but it still is unnerving. It has its moments where it's pretty brutal. And it's shocking for the sake of just being shocking. A lot of body horror, but it didn't bother me. We'll go ahead and do this. Richard Matheson's Hell House. suffered from me not giving a damn about the characters in this book. It's an older book, and I believe this book was written in a time where people cared about people a little more. 4 people go into the Belasco house in Maine to study it to see if it's actually haunted. And this book expects you to immediately care about these 4 people when you don't really know much about them. And so it didn't really bother me that much. And so I didn't really care. Full Moon. I really liked Full Moon. I read that one in January in between some big fat daddy fantasy books, and it was quite a breath of fresh air. I loved it. I'll never forget the police station scene. It was great. Warlords of the Weirdwood, Gods of the Weirdwood was a great setup book. It had a lot of stuff. Warlords of the Weirdwood expanded on an already enormous world, and you unlock some other places from the land of Krua. Yes, you get to go back to Weirdwood. Immediately when the book starts, they're going back to the Weirdwood. Then you go into another place that is awesome about Weirdwood. You learn about the Tappestones. You learn about the underground network with the Osir. You learn about the Slow Lands. It is just such a cool book, and I'm excited for the Heart of the Weirdwood to come out in June. Hopefully they get it kicked out in June. Amazing book. Again, another 5-star. Last and certainly not least, Malice. Malice is, by all intents and purposes, one of the greatest, well-rounded, I feel like everybody that likes fantasy, even if you don't like fantasy, and it's amazing. I'll tell you what it doesn't suffer from is a lack of character depth and you giving a crap about them. It has the complete opposite effect of Richard Matheson's, because you spend enough time in the beginning of this book getting used to these characters and falling in love with these characters that you don't really care what they do, because you're just enjoying yourself. You didn't care about the characters because you didn't have time with them in Richard Matheson's Hell House. But in Malice, you care. You care about everybody. And about halfway through it, once the eclipse happens, things start clicking into place. And you're like, no, I don't want them to be bad. Again, don't you ever touch Corbin. If you lay a hand on Corbin, you die painfully, brutally, and efficiently. Amazing book. I've ranked... R.J. Barker is my favorite, so far, my favorite author of all time. I just love his writing style. Him and John Gwynne kind of have it's kind of similar. It's weird. I can't describe it, but they are very both amazing at character development and writing characters. And I got this, I want to hang out in your book, don't make me leave kind of vibe whenever I read both of them. But Malice killed it, man. I loved it. It hurts me to say that I liked it more than R.J. Barker's Forsaken trilogy, but I mean, it's the truth. It's nothing against it. Still S-tier books. Malice has no sex in it. It's one of those books that I could easily give to anybody that's interested in reading fantasy. Hey, you got a good recommendation for some fantasy? Give them Malice. It's got a cool cover. It's got the sword that Corbin's dad gave to him on the front of it. It's an awesome book. Highly recommend. And that is my list. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful rest of the day, and I'll see you next time.